anything actually.
Yes, it does.
Little, it makes little, but it's the thing is, if you still you haven't really solved the problem, because we are eternal souls. We die. If you can feed a poor man, he'll still die. And what about his next life? What's going to happen next life? Even though he had full belly. So the main problem in life is actually to utilize a human form of life to get out of repeated birth and death, go back home, back to Godhead, back to Krishna. And if a human being who has that as his goal, and a society which has that as their goal, will solve all minor problems, including food problems, because people will not be greedy, and there's enough food in this world. So that's kind of, I'd say actually this is the best welfare work. It's much better than any other help the poor. It helps on all levels. You will not find any other comparison.
With money in India, many banks, I have heard it, and it's really it's a fact in India. Some banks in India borrowed money to rural people in India, and that money changed their life forever. They made farms, small pieces of ground to grow their own vegetables and their own food, and their money saved their lives. And it still exists, this organization who helps people to grow their own food. It's only money did it. So money does a lot help for Indian poor people and other people in the world, in Africa, in other places. Why should be used all this money that can save lives to make luxuous palace for people, and also the holy temples? It could be a bit simple, and instead of using all this money to make it luxuous luxury, to give the poor money, to borrow poor people to change their lives, to make changes.
Do you have a response?
Yeah. Yes, I was just thinking about that. One of our pujaris here in our temple here from India, he lived in Mayapur for 16 years, and all of us, we were meat eaters, we were taking intoxication in different ways, and we were very selfish, before we came to this movement. So Mayapur is an educational institution. So in Mayapur you have hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of young men and women, and they live under such austere, simple circumstances. So this building that you see there, it is simply meant to attract so many different levels of society, to educate them, just like Lalita Prabhu and Gaura Prabhu, they explained. It is an educational institution to help the whole world give up their selfishness and selfish desires, to teach the whole world. So imagine all these hundreds and millions of people who will come there and get a wake-up call and go back to their respective area, especially in India, and change their whole village and change their school. So this selfishness is so deep-rooted in each one of us. But when you go to such a powerful place and you see the elephants and you see the ecological gardens there, this temple is just one part of a big, huge city, where each person is a A teacher is a teacher, they don't get any salary there. If you're a nurse, you don't get any salary. So in this way, this whole city is an unselfish offer of love to the Lord. And this is why that mentality is needed to be spread all over the world. And it is not for the inhabitants who live there. It's not when we go there, we live in a simple hut because we don't have any money. We may collect for 3 years a ticket, airplane ticket, but Gaura Prabhu was just living there, and the emails he wrote every day was that every night he was not able to sleep, being beaten by mosquitoes and getting really sick in different ways. So it's just, it is a very, very unselfish service they are all doing.
This gentleman has a point here.
That's also for, sorry I cannot really speak, I have to go to the doctor soon. But I just want to say I've been coming in India for 35 years, and it's not the wealth that's needed in India. You say why we don't give to the poor people, because there's some of the richest people in India that are so greedy, and they don't appreciate places like Mayapur, many of them. And I've been in Mayapur and I've been in Vrindavan, and it's so amazing. There's so much love there for the Lord, to meet the people there. I was blessed by going by with sannyasi to Calcutta by the taxi, and I was 4 hours alone in that Nisinganath Maharaj, and before I didn't know who he was, and I have actually a question for you.
I'll try.
Me and my kids are planning to go for a test. I have 2 kids and I am alone with them. To go there in November for half a year to check out, to be a resident in Mayapur.
Oh.
Is that the right way to do, to go down there for half a year first and then get
Initiated?
Yeah, or
Initiated.
yeah.
Uh-huh. Do your kids come to the temple here?
Sorry?
Do your kids come to the temple here?
Yes.
Nice. Yeah.
And my son just shaved up today, and
Really? Wow. Congratulations.
he's 8 years old.
He's what?
He's 8 years old.
8 years old.
And he
Wow.
wanted.
He's fired up. Maybe he'll inspire his dad to do the same.
Today?
Yes, on Sunday, are you coming to
Yeah.
Yeah, well, one thought that came to my mind is it'd be good if you had some idea what you want to do there. We do have schools. I can give you some information I have if I ever get my suitcase back from the airport. I have information about our educational schools there. So
I have found them on the internet.
oh yeah, one is called SIMS. It's like an international school, and it would be wonderful if your boys could. One's 8, and how old is the other one?
My daughter is 5, and she's
Oh, just a little girl.
Yeah.
Okay.
young now.
Okay. Yeah. So if you could be in touch with some of the teachers there beforehand, just so that it's not a surprise when you arrive, and maybe you have some program in place for them, because for you it's no problem to fit in, or less of a problem. But for the kids, I think it's important for them to also be connected maybe with the other kids and know who the teachers are and like that. Any other thoughts, Lily, tonight? Yeah, we have educational programs there for adults too. One of the best things you can do when you go to Mayapur is we have the Mayapur Institute, and you can take many different courses which, when you're studying in the Holy Dham, your consciousness really goes up. So yeah, you could be put in touch with the Mayapur Institute. But just to be there and attend the morning program, with 1,000 other devotees, it's very intense. I was being reminded earlier of that saying by Gandhi. He said a couple of wonderful things. One of the things he said was that there's always enough for man's need, but there's never enough for man's greed. So that's the real problem, is it's not, from a point of view of poverty, in one sense, all of us are impoverished spiritually. And I was reading one statement by a personal growth speaker, Robin Sharma. He said, if someone's a millionaire, that may be the only thing that they have in life is money, but no character, no. It doesn't mean that a person who's rich has to be a bad person, but many times people get caught up in that, yes, if I just had wealth, if I just had money, but they don't have any internal development. So yes, I understand your point and I see where you're coming from. Vandana Shiva, she was a nuclear physicist and she gave up her job as a nuclear physicist to help the farmers of India because over 200,000 farmers have committed suicide because of buying into the Monsanto scam of genetically modified seeds. So even if you get a bunch of money from the bank and start a farm, if you're growing genetically modified so-called food, it's been proven in Germany that genetically GMO food causes cancer, and in France, independent studies prove that GMO food causes birth defects. I heard David Suzuki, I don't know if you've heard of him here in Europe, David Suzuki, he's a famous environmentalist and ecologist. Anyway, he was speaking at the University of Western Ontario in London. And he was asked, so Dr. Suzuki, what do you think of genetically modified food? And he said, well, if you take the DNA out of an Arctic flounder, fish's eye, and inject that into a strawberry, he said, with the intention of creating cold-resistant food, he said that would be like asking Mick Jagger to sing with the Toronto Philharmonic Symphony. He said some sounds will come out, but it's not going to sound very good. Because in nature, everything is done in a specific context. So what the scientists are doing with food today, they call it Frankenfoods, Frankenstein foods, because they're manipulating the genes. We don't know what kind of effect that's going to have on people's lives today. So when I hear you speaking about getting a bunch of money to start a farm, what kind of farm are we talking about exactly? I'm getting into details now. But Prabhupada said 50% of his mission is to establish sustainable rural communities. So my first question to you, since you're so concerned about making sure that people, have food and aren't suffering, is what steps are we taking to start a farm here in Denmark? Because charity begins at home. But from what I've heard, they have such a high income tax here of 50%. It's not very encouraging. I don't know exactly how that's done, how you would do it. But I see your concern, and I appreciate what you're concerned about. I also appreciate Lalitanath Prabhu's point that, because Prabhupada said that Krishna consciousness is like throwing a big switch. When you hit one switch and the light comes on in the room, then the darkness is out. When the sun rises in the morning, then everything's bright. So although there's so much suffering in the world, Prabhupada said to one newspaper reporter, the lady was saying, well, aren't you doing anything, to help the poor? And Prabhupada said, and I don't mean to make an offense towards you, but he said, your compassion is like blowing on a boil. You know what a boil is? If you ever had it, it's a kind of like an infection, and there's infected material, and it's red and it's hot and it's very painful. I've had it many years ago. So he said, your type of compassion is like blowing on the boil, trying to cool it off. He said, you have to lance it. You have to stick a pin in it and explode it, and then, put some golden seal in it or some antibiotic, antiseptic. You got to get to the root cause of things. So people are suffering because we forgot Krishna. At least that's our spiritual conviction, that any of us are suffering. We need to take ownership. I need to take ownership for the problems that are existing in my life. Nothing happens by accident. It depends really on how much we believe this philosophy. Do we believe in the law of karma or not? Especially when the karma is in our lives. Of course, as devotees, it's arguable whether or not we're suffering karma or not. But Krishna may be particularly, turning the screws in our life in order so that we can become his devotee. It may be some special mercy that we're receiving from him. So that's why we go out to chant Hare Krishna by going on the Harinam. We don't just gather in people's homes and say to hell with everybody else. No, we go downtown and we sing and we chant. And I hope to do some of that here, and I hope you will come and join me whenever we're doing that. I don't know exactly what. Are we doing that tomorrow, or when are we doing that?
Yes, tomorrow.
At what time? At 1 p.m.?
Harinam start distribution downtown tomorrow at 1 o'clock.
At 1 o'clock tomorrow. What's
Kultorvet.
Koltol?
Ja.
That's the location?
Ikke Kultorvet.
Koltol. Playing cartels at Koltol.
Yes.
Yeah.
And probably, I guess, continue tomorrow night at 6 o'clock again.
Whatever you like. Let's do more kirtan and put our heads together, our hearts together.
I mean, you're here for a while. You're here for a week, and
Yeah, I'm supposed to leave on the 15th for England, for London. And I'm supposed to go on a little visit to see Norway, which I've never been to either. I just walked around the neighborhood, that's all I've seen of Copenhagen, and I saw a little bay that leads to the ocean. But I hope I'll have more chance to see your lovely country and city while I'm here.
actually, I was just told tomorrow there's a home program with the devotee, not here in the temple.
Oh, yes, I met him in Mayapur. Amit?
I mean, yeah, that's right.
Great. If someone can find me an acoustic guitar, I'll do a little acoustic guitar kirtan. If someone does, otherwise I'll play the harmony. Pardon me?
Yeah, got in London. Our
Oh.
radio man have one, I think.
Okay, can you give him a call?
Yes.
Okay,
You can try.
thank you. So please join us at Amit Krishna.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if everyone's invited. Is everyone invited?
I don't know.
No.
I don't know.
Okay.
Probably not.
No,
No.
I think it's for some yoga people who come
Oh.
here. It's like they just have a flat, so it's
Oh.
like limited.
Okay, so check with him before coming.
But Sunday, you will be here the Sunday feast, yeah?
Yes, I imagine I'll be here on Sunday.
And next week,
So-
some days. also.
Yeah. So thank you very much for supporting this temple. You're all Mahatmas, all great souls, helping to spread love of God in Copenhagen. When I was out chanting this afternoon with Amogadrik, I was saying hi to people, and some would say hi, and others just kind of pretended that I wasn't really existing. They didn't know what to say. A guy walking around in a white dress blowing in the air. But that's okay, people are, they're suffering, everyone's suffering. So the more charity begins at home, the more we enrich our own lives by reading Prabhupada's books, by coming, the devotees, it's a small crew here, the devotees need help. So whatever you can do to help in any way, help with the cooking, help with washing of the pot, sweep the floor, invite friends, take invitation cards with you. Do we have invitation cards to hand out? Yeah. My humble suggestion is I never go anywhere without carrying an invitation card with me. I keep some cards in my pocket because you meet nice people everywhere. And you may be the only person that person will meet in this lifetime that will invite them to Krishna's temple. And they may need to come for several lifetimes before they actually become a devotee. So please be kind to your own people here in Copenhagen. Invite them to this wonderful temple. The dedicated devotees here are maintaining this facility for you, and thank you for helping them to do that. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Now it's prasadam. We'll serve prasadam.
Have some trouble.